Welcome back to another episode of Adventures in Business, the show where we promote and highlight people doing amazing things in the 517 Lansing area. And again, we do not disappoint. We have a great guest for today. But before we get into that, this is Amy Zander, your co-host, and I'm here again, always with the lovely Lisa Fisher. Lisa, how you doing?
I'm good, Amy. I'm just again, podcasting day is always the greatest. We get to meet great people and help them to showcase themselves in their businesses. But also, we've added this arm on where we talk about what we've actually been now doing out in the community. And I really love our guest earlier in the month where she talked about how can I say I'm a member of the community if I'm not giving back? And so I have found myself volunteering at a music in the park in Grand
Hmm.
Ledge where I met our lovely guest today, which I will tell more about that. But two men and a tenor were singing. There were some vendors that were set up and just some amazing people. And so being able to not just do this podcast, which is our give back to the community, but also to just be out in the community doing more than just eating. I feel like most of the time I'm just eating somewhere.
Well, it is something we have to do 2 or 3 times a day. So, there is yeah. And the Grand Lodge venue in for music in the park is really pretty. It's like on a hill and it's by the
Yeah.
river and it's such a nice place to go visit.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah.
What have you been doing?
Yeah, I recently went to the Lansing Art Gallery. I do go there a lot. Full disclosure, I am a board member there, but it is rapidly becoming my go-to place to buy unique gifts for people. And I had we needed to get a gift for my mother-in-law for her birthday, so I went down there, and you can always be assured that you're A, going to get something from a Michigan artist, and B, it's going to be something that you're not going to find anywhere else.
I love
So
it.
so yeah, I always like popping in there and seeing the new stuff that they've got going on. So yeah. So what about you, Olivia? What have you been doing in the area?
So I've been going every single Thursday to the Music in the Park in Grand Ledge. As like I said, that's where we ran into each other.
Mhm.
It's been really fun though. Like you said, the food's been good. Last week they had a food truck there. I forget the name of it, but they had the best cream corn. I'm also
Hmm.
always eating. I wish I could remember the name of them, but I would love to give them a little plug in, but they were phenomenal, and the music's been great. Meeting lots of great people down there. That's probably been the highlight of my Thursdays, and I think it's going through August 15th,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you'll see me there.
All right.
Mhm.
Perfect. All right. Well, Lisa, tell us who we got today.
Fantastic. Olivia Santioni. Did I say that right?
You got
Santioni.
it. Yeah.
Excellent. Residency sales coordinator at the Delta Retirement Center, which is a family owned and operated community that provides both assisted and independent living. And I have to tell you, she, like at the first day I met her, we're chit chatting, we're having a great time. And then I found myself in a predicament after hours needing somebody that could come in and do some crisis counseling for an organization that was open 24/7. And, she pulled through, she's getting me names. She doesn't know me from anybody, but actually, the person that you referred, they reached right out. So it was really amazing. So thank you for that. But also, it was just a pleasure to get to know you. So tell us a little bit a, about the Delta Retirement Center, but B, more so a little bit more about you, Olivia. Tell us a little bit more about you and how you ended up there.
Yeah, so I have been working in the senior living community kind of circuit for the past 7 years or so. I started out working as a home care provider, working with people one on one in their homes. I did like third shift, just helping people in the middle of the night. I did that for about a year or so before working and moving into a community setting, which is like senior apartments. And I was really interested in. I'm so sorry. I need to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Uh, sorry about that.
No worries.
I started working in a community and got interested in different departments, including activities. So in communities like mine, there are lots of different activities throughout the day, like not just bingo, but we do like luau parties, Oktoberfest, happy hours. Um, and I have a background in art and design, and I do 4-H and different things like that. So they were really excited when I applied at the community. Like, are you interested in the director of life enrichment? And I was like, can you elaborate? Because I don't really know what you're talking about. That's when they educated me on activities in senior communities. So I did that position for a couple of years before I kind of grew into the sales, marketing, counseling on moving into communities. So, and that's what I do now. Uh, so with this kind of position, when people first make that phone call inquiring about what is a senior apartment, what do you provide, I'm the person that you would talk to just kind of get educated about what are the amenities, what is this, because I feel like I run into a lot of situations where people are kind of put off by this idea, or they don't really know what all is included in this industry and these apartments. It's especially just 20, 30 years ago, the industry has really changed. So I do a lot of education about what this landscape looks like nowadays, which to me is really helpful. Well, I get a lot of purpose from helping others, guiding them through this process. So that's a little bit about like me and how I've come to be in my position.
Well, I think it's really interesting because I feel it takes a unique person to deal with babies, elderly, teenagers, quite
Yeah.
frankly, just about anybody. But anyway, how did you when did you realize that working with the elderly was something that you were passionate about?
Yeah. So um, this is not something I went to school for. I feel like, when they give you the whole like, oh, these are the different majors you can have in college, there isn't one that says you can major in senior living. That's not like really one of the major options. So I was looking for some different opportunities after college, and that's when I happened upon caregiving. There were a lot of different job opportunities. I was like, oh, I'll try it out. It seems kind of to align with healthcare, which was something that I was interested in a general sense. And it was really when I was doing that one-on-one caregiving with this gentleman. He was like 94 years old, and he loved playing cribbage, and we watched Western movies together. He really liked horses, and I just kind of bonded with him as a person. And I would go to the library and check out large print Western books so that he could read them. And we would play cribbage together, and we just kind of bonded, me and this guy. Um, and so that's then when I got that position shortly after that to do activities with seniors, talking about how I really enjoyed working with him. And at this point, I still was taking a couple classes to maybe pursue something else. But as I kind of sat with it, I was like, you know what? I think this could be its own opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why keep on going to school when I could really pursue this and make this a career? I think when you work with people, or when you work a place where people live and you get to know them as individuals, you just kind of fall in love with them. And some people are grumpy some days, some people are having great, but you're just kind of living in the moment. And it's kind of a beautiful thing to work with people. So yeah, it takes a special person, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They're just really nice.
That is so awesome. I love that. I love that. So, what makes the Delta Retirement Center different or unique in
Yeah.
comparison to others?
So each community has its own special thing. There's a little something better or different about each community. And I always recommend, if someone is looking at moving in, look at a couple, maybe not like 20, because that's a little bit much, but look at a couple to make sure you're finding the right place. Delta Retirement Center is independent and assisted living, which means that we provide some services on a basic level for everybody, which would be like meals and housekeeping, some laundry. But if you wanted to just move in and not receive any care services would be like help with medications or getting dressed. If you did not want any of that, you don't need to. You can live independently and just take advantage of like housekeeping and those kind of things. Or if you wanted to, you can receive full care services. And what makes our community unique in receiving those services is that some places they have independent on one part of the building and assisted you have to live on a different part of the building because they don't have caregivers providing services in both sides. It's only one part. So in our community, you pick out your apartment, you move in. Let's say you want this 2-bedroom apartment. You don't have to move to receive the care services if over time you want those. Also, that would mean too, let's say it's a couple and one person needs more help than the other, which often does happen. You can stay together, live in the same apartment, and we can just add on services for the person who needs it, and the other person can just continue to live their life in the same apartment. So that's something that makes us a little bit unique in the way that we provide services for our residents.
I love it. So if somebody was checking out and they're like kind of weighing their options for, because it doesn't necessarily, like somebody could just come, they want to be in this this retirement center, they can just come and check it out. Do you do tours individually? Do you do group tours? How does that work where someone can come check it out?
Yeah, so most often how people dive into this, they would start with a phone call, and I answer all basic questions, and then someone would schedule a tour with me, and usually on an individual basis, so I can chat more about the specifics with that person, and I can get them individualized pricing, and we can look at the apartments that would be best fit for them. Sometimes we do special events, like we have a luau party coming up, an Oktoberfest. And if we're doing those kind of events, I might do like a group tour, just kind of a simple walkthrough to see the model apartment. We won't be able to dive into specific pricing per individual on those kind of tours, but then maybe you'll want to do a follow-up tour to get more information if you like what you saw during that time.
Now, weren't you doing a wine tasting or something that was open to the community? It was an open invitation to bring people in just again to check it out. Do you do many of those?
I try and do like once a month an event like the wine tasting. That went over really well. Like I said, we had the luau party and the Oktoberfest. Try and do something once a month that's open to the public. We also have a craft show coming up in September. That's on the 15th that we're really excited about too. Not only are these a good opportunity for someone who's interested, but maybe a little bit hesitant to schedule that one-on-one appointment just yet. But it's also a nice thing for intergenerational people who are of all ages to come and kind of break down those barriers. Like I said, there's a lot of stigma, I think, still around senior living. And we want to just open it up to the greater community to come on in and see what we're all about.
Okay, cool. Well, I knew you were talking about the luau and the beer fest. I didn't know
Yes.
those were your open to the community events too.
Yes. Yep.
All right. So what it has been, because part of you were doing the events before you became the residency sales counselor, what has been one of your favorite events that you have hosted or that the community has hosted that you've been a part of?
Oh, my favorite event. So this was actually something I did at a different community. I have been at Delta Retirement Center for about 8 months now. So this was something I worked on for about a year at a previous community. We did an art walk, and that was fantastic. It was a coordination with the Walk to End Alzheimer's as well. And it was a collaboration with residents and their own art pieces, as well as staff members' art pieces or anything that they collected. And it was a fantastic event. It was open to the public. That was probably one of my favorite events that I've worked on. It was a team collaboration with our life enrichment department, sales and marketing. It was a really fun event to do that art walk.
That sounds really cool. That sounds really cool. So you had a guest appearance when you were at your booth next to me at the Grand Ledge
Oh
Music
yes.
Festival. Tell us a little bit about your guest that you had there.
Yes. Depending on when we go and the timing, we have Max the therapy cat. He comes to our community once a week on Wednesdays. So if you come by on Wednesdays, you will likely see Max and his mom, Deb. Deb is a volunteer with us at Delta Retirement Center, but also we have one of our sister companies, Abigail Hospice, that Deb and Max also volunteer with. And you will see Max not only at Delta Retirement Center, but also around town at different senior communities too. So yes, I'm hoping that he'll be coming with me to a couple other events around town. So maybe you'll see him there too.
It was just this big gray emotional support cat that just
Yes.
looked grumpy as all get out.
He's got the grumpiest little angry face.
Aw. Yeah. So you had said earlier that often when people call Delta Retirement Center, you're the person that answers the phone and answers their initial questions and things like that.
Yeah.
I imagine that a majority of those calls are people that may feel a little bit like they're in a crisis situation where they have a loved one that needs to find a place. They've never done this before. They don't even maybe know the right questions to ask or what they're even looking for. So can you talk a little bit about, that part of your job and how you work with people to figure out where their loved one should best go?
Yeah, so you're right. A lot of the times I'm working with people who their loved one is at the hospital, or they just got to rehab, or they're at rehab and found out that they're going to be discharging and they didn't understand the timeline of how that all worked. So I work with a lot of people in those situations and try and understand or talk through with them how these different processes work. Yeah, we have some conversations about have them tell me their story so I can understand where we're at. And it's a little bit different for each person because we're all along a different journey. So once I understand better their situation, then I can guide them through the steps in the process. So if someone's at the hospital right now, maybe they can qualify for rehab, and we'll talk through what that process looks like. If they're at rehab, I talk through the discharge planning process, and I can connect with their discharge planner. And so I have some different knowledge in different areas that would help them best. It just depends on where they're at. And then once we kind of figure out those timelines, then we'll schedule a tour if it's appropriate, or I can go out to them where they're at and bring them the information so they don't have to make time because sometimes it's just it can be a burden on their brain to come to me. So I'll come to them. So I just like to meet people where they're at and get them the information that makes the most sense to them. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that absolutely
Okay.
answers my question. Even though that's you're kind of like the first point of contact or whatever, I imagine some of that is, can be a little bit hard because you're dealing with people that are upset or confused or whatever. And it takes somebody like you who has a passion for working with this community and this group of people to be that
Yes.
empathetic ear and help walk them through the process.
And I also sometimes I do run into people where my community is not the right fit at the right time.
Sure.
So I also try and be a resource where if I don't have the right opportunity or the right option, then I'll make sure they know that this is going to be the best way to go. Here's a phone number. Here's a resource. I hope this was helpful. I try and get them where they need to go because they don't, like you said, they don't always know what they don't know.
Sure.
They don't know that I'm not the right person. But here you go. Here's the phone number.
Right. Yeah. So in working with the aging population, I know you don't actually live on site, but you spend a lot of time there. You probably feel like you live there half the time.
Sometimes.
And you said, and the residents live there, and these people become your friends. And then, it's very likely that they're going to pass on. So does this industry, the senior living industry and things, do they provide training for you guys on that and counseling and that kind of stuff so that you can, deal with that?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier, we have our own hospice company, Abigail Hospice. And so when you had that issue earlier, when we were at the event, they have grief counseling and are able to provide some of those services for us, as well as for families. So when we have somebody who passes on in our campus, we have a comfort cart that we do for
Oh,
staff and residents. So it's like a little cart that has snacks on it, as an oil diffuser and different things. We have that for family members who are coming to visit. But then we also, if anyone in our community, let's say it was a resident who's particularly close with a lot of staff members, we can have our Abigail Hospice team provide services for them, counseling, those kind of things. We also make sure to find out when memorial services are for them, so we can stop by, deliver flowers. If someone wants to go, we'll make sure to cover their shifts here, which is really nice because I know that that had been an issue at some other communities I had worked with. If someone was trying to go to the funeral, being a family-owned community has been really helpful for making accommodations for that too. You really get a sense of family.
right. Yeah. I was telling Lisa before you jumped on the show, before we started recording, my very first quote unquote job that I ever had, I was 14 and I volunteered at a daytime center for retirement people, that they would come and like have lunch and play games and stuff like that. They didn't live there, but they would just come for the day. And it was also a way for their caregiver or spouse to have them go somewhere where they could go do some stuff. My very first day there, one of the women she was in a wheelchair and she passed away. She had a stroke right there in the center and passed away in front of all of us. And that was back in like maybe 89, 90. I was about 14. And they didn't think about any sort of counseling for that. I think everybody kind of forgot that I was there. And I was like, I can't believe this is happening right now.
Oh no.
So yeah, it was it didn't stop me from coming back. I came back and I made lots of friends and I loved that job and it was so fun. And they loved having me there because I was like a kid. But I'm glad to hear that that's a priority now for people.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely like we have a couple different hospice volunteers that come in regularly, and we make sure to let everybody know when someone is actively passing, and that we have our hands on everything. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So can you describe for our listeners where Delta Retirement Center is located?
Yeah. So we're near the Lansing Mall. We're on Mall Drive South where it hits Michigan. So there used to be a Hobby Lobby right next door, but it just got turned into an adventure park, which I still need to go check out. I think it's some kind of like trampoline type thing or something like that. But really excited to go see that. But yeah, so where Michigan hits Mall Drive South.
Okay. All right. And then your website is deltaretirement.com for people that want to see your facilities and all your services. You have a great I was looking at a great downloadable PDF of all your activities going on every day. There's like 5 or 6 every day at least going on. So you guys are very busy, got lots of things to do there. So perfect. And as always, to our listeners, we'll have the links for all these things in our show notes so you can find them there if you don't have a pen to jot it down right now.
So you had mentioned hospice volunteers. Are there other volunteer opportunities for youth groups, scout groups, different things like that?
Yes. We actually have been looking for some Girl Scouts to volunteer in our community. So if there are any Girl Scouts or any other volunteer groups that would like to come on in, 4-H as well. I'm a big 4-Her, so shout out. Yes, there are volunteer opportunities. Our activity director, Katie, she has put together a volunteer like flyer, something to fill out for groups that are interested in volunteering. So yes, we would love for people to come on in. And definitely for Girl Scout troops, there's opportunity for Bronze Award, Silver Award, and those different accomplishments for themselves by volunteering in a community like ours.
What are some of the things those volunteers would do?
It depends on their interests and like what kind of group there are. I was looking to maybe do some partnership with some fundraising for the Walk to End Alzheimer's, if we could get a big enough group together for Girl Scouts. There's also some opportunities to do some one-on-one conversations with our residents there's some people who don't come out of their apartments and join in the big group activities, but we'd love to do some kind of partnership. If we can have a consistent volunteer group to come on in and do like a adopted grandparent type of opportunity there. So But if we could have some more conversation about what they're interested in, we could really develop a firm plan on those.
Gotcha. So there's lots of opportunity there.
Yes, for sure.
Very
Cool.
cool. Is there anything, Olivia, that we've not asked you about that you want to share with our listeners?
I'm trying to think. I think those are the big things to cover. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. You covered a lot of topics.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, we
love
did.
it.
And you said that you're looking for Girl Scouts and other people that might want to volunteer. Is there anybody else in the community that we or our listeners can possibly help connect you with?
Those are my big asks, would be Girl Scouts, 4-H groups, even if there's a youth group, honor society, any kind of organization that could or would be interested in reaching out and connecting with us for volunteer opportunities. We would love that. We're really looking for some intergenerational opportunities for our residents to engage with.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
All
Fantastic.
right. Well, there you heard it, Lansing. There's lots of volunteer opportunities in this area, and one of them is at the Delta Retirement Center. And we'll have links in the show notes for this episode of how to get a hold of Olivia and the Delta Center itself so that you can follow up and find more information about that and for your group. So thank you so much for being on our show, Olivia. This has been very educational.
No problem. You know what? If I could do a little bit of a plug, I
Sure.
only volunteer for the Walk to End Alzheimer's on top of working for Delta Retirement Center. So the Walk to End Alzheimer's is October 13th at the Lansing Capitol. So if anyone is interested in volunteering for that, separate from Delta Retirement Center, or if you're wanting to raise funds for the Walk to End Alzheimer's, if you have any questions about the Walk to End Alzheimer's, you can reach out to me at Delta Retirement Center. And I can connect you with the right people. We're looking for teams for the walk. We're looking for organizations to sponsor, fundraising groups, anything like that. We're really excited to get the ball rolling for the walk this year.
Perfect. That's a perfect ask. I like that. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So nice to have you. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah,
Of course,
I'll have
thank
to.
you guys so much.
Yeah, I'll have to stop by at the Music in the Park in Grand
Yes.
Ledge and say hi to you and the Grumpy
Please
Cat.
do.
And
Yes.
yeah, now that we can put a face with the name, that'll be great. So yeah, thanks so much for being on this episode. I really appreciate it. It's been great to meet you, Olivia. Thank you for everything that you do for the senior community in our area. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And to all our listeners, thank you again for coming on another adventure with us. We appreciate you. And we release new episodes every Wednesday. You can find us at zdiamedia.com or wherever you listen to your podcast. And also, please don't forget our YouTube channel at Adventures in Business Podcast. So I hope you guys have a great day. And as always, go out and make it an adventure.
This is a Zedia Media production.